Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson from Creative Guitar Studio. Thanks for joining me for another installment of the old guitar blog here. It is Saturday, December 4th, 2010. I'm going to hit some questions that have been coming in to the website this week. The first one is from Mher from Montreal, Canada. I hope I got your name right. It's a different spelling for me to recognize, but let's get to your question. He says here, I was wondering how to create more complex chord progressions. I understand the basic construction of chords in any given key, but it's getting a bit boring after a while to always have the same majors and minors. I'd like to know how to perhaps add a sixth or have chords with open strings ringing or even substitute chords with others in any type of progression. So it's an excellent question. I'm sure it's one that has a lot of people fascinated with how to get a better handle on chords on the neck. Now, what this all boils down to though is has to do with chord construction theory. So first of all, I wanted to mention two books that I think are really valuable. The first one is called Chord Chemistry. It's by a guy named Ted Green. Excellent book. I'd highly recommend it. Another very cool chord book is called Creative Chord Substitutions. It's by Eddie Arkin. Right off the bat, I'd recommend getting both those books there. Another thing I want to recommend is you had asked about open string chord voicings. On my Creative Guitar Studio YouTube channel, I have a video that I've done called Open String Chord Voicings. It's very good. But just to kind of run through this quickly, to get a handle on this stuff, you've got to have an idea about how everything starts from the beginning, which is intervals. You have two notes, let's say, you know, those expand to three note chords, and then you start getting into the jazz chords, the sevenths. But there's also chords in between. You know, you can have, like for instance, sixth chords, you know, in between there. You can have ninths after you go past the sevenths, you know. So there's so much on the expansion off of, you know, let's say two notes going into three, going into four, into five eventually. So all those combinations of how those notes fit together, it's really integral that you wholeheartedly understand that. So through some of the theory videos that I have on my Creative Guitar Studio YouTube channel, as well as the video about open string chord voicings and those two books I mentioned by Ted Green and Eddie Arkin, all that information should help get you started on this stuff, but it will take time because aside from the theoretical knowledge that you're going to have to attain, there's of course motor skill development that you have to develop as well between the hands. So let's take a look at the next question that's coming up here. It's from Lewis. Lewis wrote in, he says, this question kind of picks up where the other question left off on chords. Lewis wrote in saying, I'm having trouble with some basic stuff here. What does it mean for when, example, someone says a C major chord is made up of steps 1, 3, 5? To explain this, let's just go to a basic first position C major chord. And when we look at this, we're just going to be looking at it between fifth and second strings, so just the inside four guitar strings. Now in this chord, C is the root at the fifth string, third fret. Now E comes up next on the fourth string, second fret. That's the third of that chord. The next note is an open third string G, so G is the fifth, and then I have an octave of C up there at the second string, C, E, G. Now let's look at this another way. Let's look at the first five steps of a C major scale. It's C, D, E, F, G, basically. Now what happens here in terms of numbering is we've got root, second degree, third, fourth, and fifth. So what we do to create chords is we jump every second note. We use the root, we skip over the second, we go to the third. So this is C, D, E. E is the third of the C chord. The fourth is not used, we jump to the fifth, that's a G. So now we've got C, E, G, those are our chord tones that are found in any one of our triads. Now, you have to realize that chord construction is based off of altering tones to get different kinds of chord qualities. So for instance, if I had 1, 3, 5, I'm talking about a major chord. If I were to say a 1 flat 3, 5, I'm taking the third degree, in this case off the C chord, it's a E, and I'm dropping it down to E flat. Now I've got a C minor chord with an E flat present, a flat third. Every adjustment you make and every number you add in, like for instance, let's say I wanted to create a sixth. The sixth note after the G being the fifth, we have an A as the sixth. If I add an A into this C chord, I now have a C major 6. Now every step you add of the scale in a different way, and there's really specific ways you're going to add these in. In the application, you're going to get different kinds of chords. So that's why it's so vital to know and understand how to use chord construction principles and the chord theory itself. Okay, let's go to the next question. It's from Mark. And Mark was writing in saying, I would love to be able to play like Daryl Scott. or Paul Simon, and I wish to know how to develop the picking techniques that are employed by them, and hopefully to develop my own style. Any kinds of tips would be appreciated. Well, what a lot of the folk players are using is a technique called hybrid picking. They'll either use the flat pick, held between their index finger and their thumb, or they'll be using a thumb pick on their, obviously on their thumb. So basically, what's going on with hybrid picking is you're using flat pick and fingers together, and a lot of the playing is based around different kinds of patterns, and the patterns are usually fairly loose. They're not 100% set in stone from one chord to another, and they're often many times they're introducing strum patterns along with some of the picking patterns, and that holds true for a lot of artists. If you look at Neil Young or even Bruce Cockburn, a lot of these guys, they're sort of integrating both strum technique along with the hybrid style. Now, just to introduce you to this style, I'm going to show you a technique around a D major chord. So if you want to make a D major chord real quick there, basic open position D. And what we're going to do is we're going to pluck on the 4th and 2nd strings of that chord, and then we're going to use pick and middle back and forth on the 3rd to 2nd, back to 3rd strings. So like this in the beginning. Then we're going to use ring finger, come from the top 1st string, and just play into middle finger on the 2nd string. And that'll be the pattern. You can get started on that. Maybe move it to a few other chords, add in some strumming, and try to incorporate your own technique and your own way of approaching each of the chord changes that perhaps you make for your compositions. And I guarantee you'll start getting some ability with this, and probably begin, obviously, creating your own style in the process. Yeah, I've got time for one more question that we can do. It's going to be from Leslie, and Leslie wrote in here saying, I've watched your video on how to repair a broken headstock on YouTube because I'm planning to repair a similar break on my Guild. I discovered that there's some wood missing though, and it was long ago swept up off the floor. Is there anything I can do to fill that with? Well, depends a little bit of where this wood was missing from. If it was just splinters from the break on the inside, I mean, just basically glue it up, fit it back together, and you don't have really too much to worry about there. But somehow I think that you may be talking about wood splinters missing from the face of the headstock. Now, when I repaired this guitar in that video, one of the things that I didn't do is go and strip the front of the headstock down and completely take it down to the bare wood, use some wood filler, get that nice and sand it down flat, and then do a resurfacing of the front of the headstock, making it all mint, and then giving it a shot of paint, and then giving it a shot of clear coat. Now, of course, in doing that, it's going to be a little bit more work for you, and you are going to lose the name off the top of the headstock of the guitar brand, but you will actually get an invisible repair, which will be really nice if the guitar is a guitar that you plan on using. Yeah, so that guitar, was really never anything that I had ever planned on using on a gig. But it was just a guinea pig, essentially, for that YouTube video. But, it's held up really well. If you want it to be mint and make the repair invisible, you're going to have to take it down to the bare wood and create a brand new surface, get some wood filler on there, and then prep it, and then get some new paint on it, get some clear coat, and make it look just 100% mint. It's a little bit extra work, but I don't know, maybe one day we'll do another video and I'll show you how to do something like that. But anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. Thanks for joining me for another guitar blog, and thanks for sending in all your questions. I really appreciate it. I know I get so many questions, I do not have a chance to answer all of them, so I apologize for that, but I do read them all. So keep sending them in. I appreciate all of them. And until next time, take care, everybody, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.